Hello, I'm Sharah. I'm your host for the Let's Talk Valdosta podcast. And I have our Assistant City Manager, Catherine.
Hello,
Ammons.
Sharah.
How are you, Kat?
Thank you for pronouncing it right. I'm well, thank you.
Good. Well, Kat, I call her Kat, but Kat, you have been with the City of Valdosta how long now?
Almost 6.5 years.
Okay. And in that process, you have elevated. And one thing I will mention, I'm proud to say this as another female, but you are our first female Assistant City Manager and our first Latina Assistant City Manager.
I am, so I've heard. Yep.
So how does that to feel that you open these kind of doors for other people?
You know, I always say it's so prideful,
Mm-hmm.
right? I walk into any room always being mindful that I represent a group of women that no matter what their walk of life is, that I am a testament that anything truly is possible.
Right.
And so I wear that with honor.
Well, with that being said, can you tell us a little bit about your background and where you come from?
So born and raised in Brooklyn, New York, and from immigrant Cuban family.
Mm-hmm.
They fled Cuba during communism. And so never thought I would be in the South. And here I found myself 10 years ago by way of Wild Adventures. They relocated me here and moved here with my children. And I have an HR background over 30 years. And it never thought Valdosta.
So you were 5 when you started?
I was. Now you're my favorite. Never thought I would go into local government whatsoever. I had been in the private sector my entire career.
Mm-hmm.
And never, ever thought I would stay in South Georgia, but here I am. Valdosta grew on me and my family, and I'm so thankful that I was relocated here.
And with that process, what would you say inspired you through your career to elevate in those ways that you have?
You know, I think it's hard work. It's seeing the two people that, so many people look at stars as their mentors or famous people. And for me, those were my grandparents. Mm-hmm. They left Cuba with nothing, just the desire to give their family a better life. Mm-hmm. And so that was ingrained in me. And so that's always been my desire, is to work hard. And it was never about titles, and it was never really... Now more so about the money. It's about making a difference in the community and with the people that you surround yourself with. So it's just seeing what they instilled in our family.
And with that being said, I know this about you, and many people may not know, but one thing you're an advocate for is, women and young people. And so with your experience, what advice would you give that young girl that may not have came from a silver spoon in her mouth, may have had a struggle throughout her life, and she wants to elevate in her life?
Never give up. Never give up. You will go through many failures in life. You will go through a lot of obstacles, but giving up is not an option. Mm-hmm. And I think if that's the one piece of advice I could give any young woman, or really the youth as a whole, is never give up.
Right. And I know that I was talking to Mr. Hardy earlier, and I know one thing that you will both have done very well is reaching out to the schools and talking to the young people. Mm-hmm. What would you say is maybe some of the common feedback you may hear from them?
So I think it's not knowing, Richard and I's background, or especially me, when I walk in and I give them my background of the hard times or the tribulations or the obstacles, or even telling them that I am a Latina. They're like, no, are you kidding? But I find that to be super important, that they need somebody that's relatable, that they can say, okay, if she did it, if he did it, we can do it as well. Right. And that has been the mission.
Well, I know by the time that this airs, we will be celebrating National Hispanic Heritage Month. And can you speak a little bit about how much that means to you, being in your role?
It's just so prideful. I think it initiated back in the 60s. Mm-hmm. And prior to that, people can assume that they know about what Latinos and Hispanics, what their backgrounds or our backgrounds are. But it's getting awareness out there about our cultures. Mm-hmm. We come from all different walks of life. We look different. Some of us are lighter than others, and we're light skinned, we're dark skinned. We celebrate family and togetherness, and so that awareness is super important in what I feel is Hispanic and Latino heritage.
Well, with that also being said, you're Latina, but you're also a woman. So how is that career? Because I know a lot of times in your career path, you've been sometimes the only woman in the room.
I have.
So how do you handle that? How do you maneuver with those type of situations? Because sometimes for women, that could be a little intimidating if you feel like you're the only woman in the room, the only voice at the table.
And it has been,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I think the majority of my younger career was that, you know, and I was at first never really taken serious.
Mm-hmm.
And then not only am I a woman, but I'm a mother.
Right.
And so you interject all of those, you know, balls in the air. How does she do it?
Right.
How can she do it? Is she, you know, missing out on her kids' events and juggling all those things? I think by showing young women that you can do it all,
Mm-hmm.
and knowing that you're human, and along the way there's going to be lots of joyful moments, there's
Mm-hmm.
going to be a lot of tears, there's going to be a lot of self-doubt,
Right.
but looking in the mirror and knowing that anything and everything is possible is key.
And that's really why you're such an advocate for mentorship.
Yeah.
Can you talk about, because I know I've met some of your mentors as well, and there's been times where I've come to you for mentorship. Why is that so important, especially as women, for us to mentor and support one another in that way?
Well, because I think so many times, and I've said this, some of my biggest critics have been women.
Right.
And I believe that that is one of the biggest obstacles that we need to overcome. We need to all uplift one another, because there are so many more relatable issues that we have lived through
Right.
than, you know, let's say Richard or our male counterparts
Right.
can't really relate to. So I think that we as women need to be, you know, cheerleaders for one another.
Mm-hmm.
And that is every day when I wake up, that is what I strive to be for every woman that not only I work with, but come in contact with.
Right. And you do a really good job
Thank you.
meshing that together. And so I know, because recently we were in a meeting, and I think me and you were the only females in the meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And the guys, they kind of go on these tangents sometimes and start talking about fishing and golf and all these random stuff. And
Yeah.
we were actually trying to have a meeting.
Yeah. Right.
And I was trying to talk, and Catherine was like, Sharah, go ahead, Sharah. Sharah, you speak. And I was
Right.
like, I appreciate that, because they're on a whole different tangent right now.
Right.
And we have a meeting.
You know, and I think so many times, you know, if we women try to take control of a meeting, then we get labeled as, you see, she's trying
Right.
to take control, or she's, you know, she's being moody. But I think no matter what meeting or no matter what circumstance you walk into, always remember to stay calm, professional,
Mhm.
and know your agenda and your mission, and
Right.
never let anyone at that table, whether it's a male or a female,
Right.
sort of, you know, take you off the right course or the right path.
Well, it was kind of cool, because it was like, okay, she understands I'm trying to get in here. And like I said, they weren't
Mhm.
saying anything bad. It's just they were on these tangents about other stuff. And we were like, okay, we have a meeting. We got to go.
That's right. You got to go. We have stuff to do.
So I do appreciate that, because it helped me feel like I had a voice in that moment.
That's
to
right.
where, you know, we're supporting each other as women,
We have
because
to.
we have business to handle. And like I said, not that they don't handle their business, but they get a little
It's
distracted.
different.
They
It
get a
is.
little
It's very
distracted.
different. Yeah.
Is there anything else that you would like for people to know, maybe about you or your career path, or even how they can elevate the same way you have?
You know, I think it's, again, self-determination, looking in the mirror and never giving up on yourself, making the right connections, looking for those mentors, networking. Networking is huge. People
Right.
don't understand that that is one of the most valuable tools you can have in your toolbox. And again, never give up.
Thank you so much, Kat. I've
Thank
enjoyed
you.
you. It's an honor to interview you today.
Oh,
This is
thank
not really
you.
our normal
It's
setup.
not. It's not. But thank you.
But thank you so much. And thank you for all that you do for the city of Valdosta.
Thank you.